Good evening. I'm going to shut the Q&A so that I can actually see the PowerPoint that I'm talking about. Good evening. Thanks for joining us this evening. First off, I want to introduce our leadership team. I'm Bonnie O'Regan, and I've been the ALP facilitator since 2012, and I am so happy that I have joining with me a full team this year. Dr. Benjamin Marcus is the K-8 ELA and Social Studies Coordinator. Mike Reed is our K-8 math coordinator, and Tara Fogel is our K-8 science coordinator. I am going to shift my papers. The goals for the night are to answer the three most frequently asked questions. What is the placement process for ALP? Are there sample questions? When will the students take the tests? And when will parents know if their child is placed? Before we get started into the placement process, let's start with what is the Advanced Learning Program, also known or better known as ALP. In the Greenwich Public Schools, it is our policy to provide a comprehensive educational program for all students. Our mission is to teach students who give evidence of significantly high performance capability in an accelerated and enriched curriculum in various subjects with their academic peers. The Advanced Learning Program uses a content replacement and acceleration programming model for identified students in grades 3 through 8 language arts and 3 through 5 math. All identified students meet daily in the ALP classroom in lieu of their general education classrooms to receive their English language arts and/or math. This starts in 3rd grade. We aim to provide consistent instruction across all schools in our district, and in doing so, we make sure to allocate the appropriate resources to meet the developmental needs of students. In grade 2, it is not a replacement program. It is an enrichment model in the areas of reading and math. Once identified, the students are pulled out in 30-minute blocks for a total of 2 hours per week for reading and/or 2 hours per week for math. Greenwich uses a 3-phase placement process to identify specific academic student needs and match learners with an appropriate education. Referral, assessment, and placement. This graphic shows the entire process, and it looks really overwhelming. So let's break it down. First off, the referral phase. The referral phase is the direct procedure that enters a student into the assessment or evaluation phase. The referral process in grades 2 through 5 is broke down into 3 tiers. In Tier 1, students in grades 2 through 5 are first flagged as potential needing advanced program by a review of their academic performance. This is called their body of evidence. In the Tier 1, we look at assessments at a district level. Tier 2, teachers add to that body of evidence by looking at the assessments given in class and refer students whose assessments may not necessarily initially prompt the referral through a teacher referral form. In Tier 3, parents are invited to add even more information to this body of evidence using a similar Google form. They can also opt to refer their child. This form is emailed to all parents and can be found on the District ALP website. After this pool of referred students has been compiled, the ALP leadership team cross-references to ensure every student has a teacher input form. A bit more about these forms. The questions on these are based off of the Gifted Behaviors Continuum. This continuum compiles information on traits in 4 categories: cognitive, creative, affective, and behavioral. The markers on these forms are among many used in the identification processes in grades 2 through 5. Students referred then will also complete a battery of secondary assessments to determine aptitude and ability. Now we're on to the evaluation or assessment phase. In this phase, we gather information necessary for a placement decision. The assessments students take provide a multitude of information that is not already within the body of evidence gathered. Depending upon their academic referral area, students take between 3 and 8 assessments. There is a CogAT, which is age normed. This assessment evaluates relationships, systems thinking, and cognitive ability. Students then take the NWEA MAP test. This is a grade level normed and assesses both content and concepts. This assessment is adaptive, giving students questions at and above grade level. The final assessments are performance assessments. These are district level normed, open-ended responses that dig into application and reasoning. You'll notice I put science on here at this time. However, with a grade 2, we're only testing for math and reading enrichment. The science, however, will be part of the assessment processes in the spring. So let's take a look at what these assessments look like. The first type of assessment is an ability test. We use a cognitive abilities test, better known as the CogAT. This test is not like a math or spelling test where if you know the words and facts, you can score 100%. There is no defined curriculum for the CogAT, and it is not a test that can be studied for in traditional terms. The assessment evaluates relationships, systems thinking, and cognitive abilities in 2 symbol systems, words and numbers. In the verbal battery, students are presented with 20 to 24 questions and are given a set amount of time. These are the samples of what the verbal section looks like. In verbal analogies, students examine a pair of words and think about ways in which they are related. Then they apply this relationship to a third word to generate a new pair of words in the same way as the first pair. So white is to snow as black is to coal. In the second part of this battery, the students read an incomplete sentence and then select the answer choice that best completes the sentence. On the way home from school, LaShonda jumped in many blank that the rain had, can't see that, left. In the last portion of this battery, verbal classifications, students examine 3 words and think of the ways in which they are alike. Then they select the other answer choice that belongs in the same group: apple, orange, and pear. Oftentimes what I find with second graders, especially, they want to name the group instead of finding the other member of the group. So they will say fruit when indeed the correct answer in this case would be lemon because it belongs within the group. In the quantitative battery, the test questions require the same processes as the verbal analogies, but use quantitative concepts rather than verbal concepts. The 3 subtests range between 16 and 18 questions and each are answered within a set amount of time. In number analogies, students examine pairs of numbers and determine the rule that both pairs follow. Then apply that rule to a given number and choose the answer that generates the third pair that follows the same rule. In the number puzzles, each question presents an equation in which elements are missing. Students must substitute numbers from missing elements to solve the equation. In number series, each question contains a series of numbers that follows a pattern, not necessarily the same rule. First, students identify that pattern and then apply that pattern to find the next number in the series. The next type of test assesses both content and concepts. The assessment we use is the NWEA Measures of Academic Process. It's generally referred to either, we call it the NWEA or MAP test, interchangeably. This MAP test measures what students know and what they're ready to learn next. The MAP test is a computer adaptive assessment. If your child answers a question correctly, the next question they get is more challenging. If they answer a question incorrectly, the next one is easier. This type of assessment challenges the top performers without overwhelming students whose skills are below grade level. By dynamically adjusting to each student's performance, the MAP growth creates a personalized assessment experience that actually measures performance, whether a student performs on, above, or below grade level. The students will be adapted from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Let's look at what some of these types of questions are. In the reading assessment, the students are assessed within specific reading concepts in both literary and informative text. These are the sample questions assessing a knowledge within key ideas and details. Students are asked to read and comprehend text, make inferences and predictions, and draw conclusions. Here are some sample questions about knowledge within language, craft, and structure. Students are asked to the structure of literary and informational text and evaluate the author's craft and purpose. Questions within the reading assessment also focus on vocabulary acquisition and use. Students are asked to use context clues and reference materials to decipher word meanings and nuances. In the math assessment, students are assessed with specific math concepts. Here you see questions within operations and algebraic thinking, where the students are asked to solve problems using the 4 operations. You can see here within the questions of measurement and data that I put these samples in particular so that sometimes the students aren't necessarily correct multiple choice, but are asked to construct graphs or select all of the quadrilaterals. You can see more of the types of questions by going on to a practice map test. We'll look through this a little bit more. This is not an actual test. It's not going to be adaptive. Whether you pick grades 2, 3, 4 reading test, you're going to get the same questions. It's about the question type. It is not about the content level. I'm sure that you noticed that the questions on the CogAT and the map were either multiple choice or asked students to construct a very specific answer in a specific way. Now I'm going to be telling my age a little by recalling a certain public service announcement. This is your brain. This is your brain on standardized tests. This last type of assessment we use are performance assessments. Whereas CogAT helps answer the question, how well are you reasoning? And MAP answers the question, do you know it? Performance assessments help answer the question, how well can you use your reading and reasoning and what you know to generate knowledge? Performance assessment tasks require students to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and strategies by creating a response or a product. Unlike CogAT or MAP, in which students select one of the responses, a performance assessment requires students to perform a task. They basically get a blank piece of paper and they have to generate their own thinking and reasoning. So let's look at here's a reading performance task. In this, the students are asked to read a short piece of literature. In this sample, students are asked to read the fable of the Lion and the Mouse, which most of us are familiar with. And then they are asked a series of questions. There are 4 questions. I've given you 3 questions here as samples. What does this fable tell you about friendship? Use details from the text to support your answer. What is the moral of the story that Aesop wants us to know? Again, use details from the text to support your answer. After reading, think about the change the lion goes through in the fable. Explain how the lion changed from the beginning to the end, and explain why he changes. The most important portion of any of their answers is their word because, using details from the text to support their answer. Student responses are then scored on a rubric that indicates how well they've analyzed and interpreted that fable. Look, a sample here. For instance, in response to the question about how what the fable tells us about friendship, A student that tells us about don't laugh at your friends is making no interpretations. Whereas a response that the story tells the friendship is good to have conveys a very superficial interpretation of the text. If we look at the samples here for a score point 2 and 3, here they're expanding the idea of why friendship is good and goes beyond that literal level and starts to analyze the text. In the math performance task, students are encouraged to think beyond applying their basic skills by solving math problems that lend themselves to more than one way of solving. Here are some sample questions. Notice here that with the fable earlier and with these, the students are not required to have any more than grade level content knowledge. The readability of the fable that the students are asked to read is at grade level. What the concepts here within math, they're not going to be asked to multiply or divide. They're only going to be asked to add or subtract at the level that they are being asked to do in their grade level curriculum. What the point of this here is, how well are they reasoning with it? So here's a sample response here. The questions are not word problems that require a student to write an equation, but use their knowledge to generate an answer. For instance, here about the hens and the sheep, the students can draw the picture of the heads and then add the feet until they get to indeed 22 feet and find the answer of 5 hens. Upon completion of the testing, we move into the placement phase. This is the more complex phase. Students' tests are scored and then further analyzed. A Z-score is calculated for each assessment and averaged. What is a Z-score, you ask? This is a statistical calculation explaining how a student performs in relation to the class, school, or district average. Once this is done, a score profile is created for every identified student. These school reports are reviewed by a group of teachers, administrators, and members of the ALP leadership team at what we call a building advisory committee. This team conducts a comprehensive review of each student's record and performance during the evaluation to make a final placement decisions. The final decision is based on the combination of that full body of evidence, everything that we've gathered through the referral phase, everything that we've gathered through this assessment phase. It includes both performance, subjective, and objective data. All the selections reflect the best professional judgment of the committee to determine the best way to meet that child's individual needs. Students are recommended to ALP if their average Z-score places them within the top 10 of district achievement or the top 10% of the building level achievement. So there you have it, that entire placement phase, the placement process. The development of gifts and talents are dynamic and constantly developing. Therefore, the placement process extends from 2nd through 8th grade. So you'll see here, stage 8 is the placement for grade 3 begins. So this is an ongoing process. There's opportunities for students to be considered throughout their school experience. On to important dates. There are 3 important dates that are important for you to know. The first one is the parent input. Parent input and referral the parent input is a valuable component within the placement phase. Please complete these input referral forms by next Wednesday, November 10th. We are unable to accommodate any late referrals due to the nature of that accelerated grade 2 placement timeline. You will have another opportunity to refer in the spring for the grade 3 outplacement should you want to at that time. The second date is actually a range of dates for the assessments. Students will take all of the assessments between November 15th and December 17th. The building specific dates will be emailed to you on November 12th. If your child is not feeling well on any one of the scheduled dates, makeup tests will be given within this window. The last date is when you will be informed of the placement recommendation. Emails will be sent on Thursday, January 13th. Included in this email will be the scores from all of the assessments your child took within the evaluation phase. And included will be an invitation to another webinar at which we will be talking about all of the scores that are included within that portfolio. I'd like to thank you for your attention tonight and extend an invitation to ask questions at this time. If you have any questions at any time, please do not hesitate to email us. The best email address to use is advancedlearning@greenwichk12.ct.us. When you email that email, it automatically goes to all four of us. If you email any one of us, you are emailing all of us. Take note that we communicate continually. So in doing so, we aim to deliver concise and transparent information. I'm going to look at the Q&A here, see what I have questions. Will they be pulled out 30 minutes, 4 days a week, or an hour, 2 days a week, or will the 2 hours be distributed? If in the schedules this year, they are 30 minutes, 4 times a week. There may be some additional homework, but it is within the homework guidelines for grade 2. There is no additional homework just because they're in ALP. I'm seeing, I was wondering the same at grade 2 level, there may be will be an obstacle. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. If they have problems reading the word problems in the performance task, we can read it to them. We just can't draw the heads for them or tell them to draw heads. We can just read that question to them. If during their performance assessment, they wish to use to dictate their answers, I have that set up and they can dictate what their responses are. They do not have to write and they don't even have to spell correctly. We're professionals. We can read these things. We can read second grade spelling. It's more important about what their ideas are. During the cognitive abilities assessment, we can read any of those questions to them. We just can't interpret. It is not a reading comprehension test. The only reading comprehension test is the NWEA map. And if it is not assessing reading comprehension at that point, there will be an option for the students to hear the questions read to them. It is built within the system. Same with the cognitive abilities, the CogAT. They will have the opportunity to hear the actual questions being read to them. The email says on or before November. Oh, the email said that I will be getting you an email on or before November 15th. My goal is November 12th, that Friday, because testing is going to start on the 15th, and especially if your first test date for your building is on November 15th, I want you to know on Friday. If your child is in ESL, she can be in the ALP, and if we need to translate, any of the translation services are available. We translate the tests for the students, work with the ESL teacher in the buildings. If your child is in the ALP enrichment program for reading, they will continue into the ALP replacement program. If they're being successful, the additional testing that we would be doing in the spring would be for science placement. Same on the math. Did that answer that question? We continue to do, I like to give the MAP assessment because it's adaptive. And so it helps us monitor the growth for the students overall. And the performance tasks are part of another way that we monitor growth. So the students do take those assessments again, but they are not they're not going to help them determine their placement. They just take the same tests that we give to the other students that are being considered for placement. For the 2E students, what we do is we make sure that all of the accommodations and supports are in place that are within the IEPs if they get extended time. The NWEA is completely untimed test. There are time limits on the cognitive abilities test and within the performance task, but those we can extend those times if they need separate setting. We also use any assessments that they have within their portfolio, and we use a case study approach. Remember, we're looking at that full body of evidence. If we have information in the school about that child, we're going to be using them within that within our committee meetings. The Z-score is actually what was behind the point system. Is the question is, can you read the questions? Is the Z-score replacing the point system? The point system was based upon the Z-scores. What we're doing is we're simplifying the process. So the Z-score is actually, we're using the Z's instead, but the points were based upon the Z-scores. If the child is testing for just math and not reading, will the child take the CogAT? We're going to be giving both the math and the verbal CogAT for all of the students because that composite we will want to use for their science. And I do not want to re-give the student the entire component in the spring if they're going to be tested for science. If you want to request an exception to that general rule, all you need to do is email us and we will make that notation on our list. Is the test electronic or pen or paper? The CogAT and the NWEA is on their iPads, and the performance task or paper pencil, but then they also have the option of, I will be also uploading those into Nearpod so that they have that automatic dictation for the reading performance task. Can you be in ALP for just math, or does he have to qualify for both math? No, you can be in just it's specific academic. You can be in for math, or you can be in for reading, or you can be in for both. Has the enrichment program already started for grade 2? No. In grade 2, we will be beginning our pull-out enrichment program on the Tuesday we get back from Martin Luther King. January 18th, I believe, is our start date. It's that Tuesday. You'll get the emails on the Thursday before we leave for that long weekend, and then the kids will start on that Tuesday. A student who is younger, say born in December, scaled in any way, given consideration versus for that. We do use the cognitive abilities test specifically because it is age normed. So we look at age norms for the cognitive abilities test. We look at our grade level norms when we look at the NWEA MAP test, and then we look at our local norms when we're looking at our performance assessment. If a child isn't in ALP in 2nd or 3rd grade, is there another opportunity to test in 4th? No, we test every year, all the way through 8th grade. So we're always looking. Are the tests timed? Yes, the cognitive abilities test, each battery, so each part, like so for the number analogies or the verbal analogies, that's 10 minutes. And then the sentence completion is another 10 minutes. And then the verbal classification is another 10 minutes. So each battery is 30 minutes. So it's timed. That's why it's important that we make sure that if a student on their IEP or 504 gets extended time, that they get that extended time. Who facilitates the tests? You're seeing us. The ALP team are going to be doing all of the tests in all of the buildings. There are some buildings that we will all be because Dr. Marcus, Mr. Reed, and Mrs. Fogel have not given these tests before, so they are getting to see me give him for the first time and then go their ways.
Bonnie, while you're talking about the team, I just wanted to note that Dr. Marcus's email address is incorrect. All the email addresses are first name underscore last name. It's just that one has a typo in it.
Oh, then it's typoed on a number of places.
Just want to make sure the parents understood what the
Yeah.
email
Okay.
structure was.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. Mrs. Vogel, you'll help take care of that. Thank you. If the students are identified in second grade, they'll be assessed in the following years. Yes, we do a full assessment again at the end of fifth grade before they move into middle school. Is there anything we should do to help prepare our child for the test taking? Good night's sleep, breakfast. Let them stay calm. If they're not feeling well, keep them home. The subjective evidence when we're looking at the input that you put in through your input form, the input that the teachers put in, what we do is we look at that as part of the body of evidence within the building advisory committee meetings. It is not given a portion of the Z score because the Z score.
The only reason that I took him out is because I was using non-tissues to blow his nose, and I think that was causing.
I'm sorry, Mike, you need to. Thank you, Mike. Okay. So the subjective, we figure that in during our discussions. Is there any prep material to review? If you wish to, if your child wants to look over any of the question types, that's fine. But the most you can do is give them a hug, tell them you love them, and that they are great people. Don't tell them they're smart, because we all know that, but they're just great people. I'm glad that we do not select on cuteness, because they're all adorable. The parent assessment section is new this year in the Google. Yeah, so what I wanted to do in the past, the form that you're filling out was only given, and the parents only filled it out for those students who they were referring, the children, and teachers were only filling that out for the ones that they referred. What we're doing it this year is we're getting that information on everyone. So every student will have a teacher form. Every parent is invited to fill out that input form so that we get that completely. And that is what we started doing last year in the spring to make sure that we had that same level of information about the students. Are ALP students reassessed every year to see if ALP remains the best place? The assessments are given continually. As part of the classroom experience, the teachers are always watching and wanting to adapt that instruction. If a student is not successful within any classroom, the teacher and the parent are in contact and should be in contact. And so it should not be the assessments that we just talked about are not the final say. Once a student is in, if they're not doing well within that ALP program, you should be knowing that right away. If they are being very successful and we want to do some additional work with them to see what else they might need, you should not have to rely upon these sets of assessments to do that. I think the next one about being in again for next year, I think I already answered. Will it be an obvious in email sent on January 13th the student is or not being recommended? Yes, I put this as a separate Um, in the formatting of that, it will state ALP enrichment for math, ALP enrichment for reading, or enrichment within the classroom. We will make sure that that's all completely. The webinar is offered to everyone. Everyone's included. You will get that score report. You'll see the CogAT scores, and you will see a score, and it doesn't look like a score that it doesn't look like 100% that you get, or a red star, a red star or a green star. So what we'll do during that, the NWEA uses a RIT scale. And so we'll be talking about all those different scales and how those are determined. And I'll talk more about the Z scores at that time if somebody really wants to go down the statistical rabbit hole with me. If a child is accepted and then becomes frustrated, what's that process? Talk with the teacher. You always, as a parent, always have that option of choosing what is going to be that best place for that child, for your child. The samples of each type of test are here embedded within this PowerPoint, which is already posted up on the website. I'm going to stop my share, and so Tara can share her screen and show you exactly where those are.
Do you want to do that now, or let's go through the Q&A and then I'll keep my screen shared on. We'll clear out the Q&A for right now, Bonnie.
Okay, then we'll go back to it. The sample tests are the ones that are embedded within here. The students it's all group tests. So if there are 10 kids being assessed for ALP in your building, there will be 10 kids in the room. If there are 30, there will be 30 kids in the room. The PTA directory lists a PTA ALP person. In what way is the PTA involved in ALP? So I see that, I think I saw Irina on here. Irina is one of our district ALP reps, and we meet with them regularly and become that liaison between the parents and the school and the district. Will children be told they're being tested for ALP? Yes. They will know. We try to downplay it as much as possible, but they do know that they are being tested for enrichment, and that we want to know what's going to be the best way for us as teachers, as educators, to serve their specific needs. I just answered that one. What should parents tell or not tell their child? Don't tell them it's a high stakes. If you don't pass this, that you won't get into ALP, or it's all about what their needs are and what do they need. It has nothing to do with how good a reader they are, in the sense of how much they love to read or love their math. How long is the test? Each section. So we will do the CogAT verbal battery in one day, CogAT quantitative battery in another day, reading NWEA in one day or more if the students need it, the math NWEA in another day or more if they need it. Because remember, the NWEAs are untimed, so students can take as long as they wish. Then we'll do the performance assessment, each of those in a different day. So you're looking at we have 6 different tests, we have 6 days planned for each building. Students can opt out of ALP. They can opt out of ALP. You can even opt out of, if your child was referred through tier 1 or tier 2, and you got that email and you do not wish to have your child tested at this point in time for the ALP program, you may choose not to do that. All you need to do is send us an email to that effect. the percentage of students placed, it's the top 10%, if the students are the top 10% in the district or the top 10% in the school. If there are more than top 10% of the students within that building that are in the top 10% of the school, then you're going to have a higher percentage in that building of students placed in ALP. If I understood it correctly, approximately the top 10% go into ALP, while all students are assessed for referral. I'm curious what percentage of students go through. Approximately 30% of the students are being assessed for ALP. It runs right around 30%. Some buildings it's a bit more. The email for ALP PTAC is alp@greenwichptac.org. The practice tests are embedded within the PowerPoint. There is no max size of an ALP class. If they are in the top 10% of the district or the top 10% of their building, we find a chair for them. Are all assessments weighted the same? Yes. The CogAT, ability, achievement, performance, they're all averaged. We don't use a weighted average. No more questions.
Okay, I'm gonna take it away. Can somebody on the panel hit me with a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Excellent, thank you. All right, so if I go to the teaching and learning section of the Greenwich Public Schools website, and then I go under academic content areas, the very first content area you're going to see is the advanced learning program. And what you'll see is some major updates that we've gone ahead and made to our website. Here you can see on our website that we have the new structure of our leadership team. We have a clickable link to our email address. We also have our quarterly newsletter updates. You can see that we have Bonnie as our facilitator, as well as her wonderful administrative assistant, Robin. When you email, you can always CC Robin as well. We then have some breakouts, some important information, starting with this process that was defined today by Bonnie. We have everything about the placement process, including referral. Under referral, you will see your parent referral link. Once we go on to other grade levels, this is always where that will live. We have more information about the evaluation and body of evidence. We have information about placement and review. And then those graphics for our grade by grade timelines. So that will be more information for you on those timelines. The other information you may want to look at is the curriculum to see what's actually being taught in each of these advanced learning classes. So we have math, we have reading, writing, and social studies, we have middle school seminar, and middle school advanced science. The other piece of information is going to be all about these informational meetings, including the PDF right here of your slides from tonight. So if you wanted to see more information on our slides from tonight, we have the 33-page PDF available for you. We also have the Zoom links. And once our slides or our meetings are done tonight, you will have this video recording also available to you. If you want to do some other outside research, we have more information in our newsletters, more information here, and then our PTAC members, as you were introduced to earlier, we also have their emails and then some websites for additional research for that a parent may want to do on their own. And that is a quick overview of the changes to the advanced learning website.
Did you want to go through the NWEA, the question type, how people get into that?
Sure. So one of the links that Bonnie led to on our PDF tonight or on our PowerPoints, it led you to the NWEA test website. So that's going to
Now,
be
when
practice.
and the way I go into this, because I always forget this website address, is do I just type in NWEA test practice?
All right. So you can
And
go
that's
ahead
all I
and
do is I grow. Username is grow. And password is grow.
Excellent.
You can select any grade. You can select grade 2, 3. I would not select anything younger. Then you can look at math or reading. Do it in English. Then you're going to select math. Nope. There, thank you. And then these here, these are just going to show you the question types. It's not going to show you anything that's about the content, the level of it. It just shows you that there are multiple choice questions. And it, as a team, what we do before the students take the assessment the first time, we want to make sure that they know how to use the tools that they see up on the toolbar. And the toolbar tools are different on iPad than they are on the computer. There's some they function just a little bit differently. So we make sure that they go through it on the actual device that they're going to be taking the test on. And so here it's not about the right answer. They can just go through and you can look through this. But again, we will be going through these with the students. It's the question types. This is more for your information, or if your child really wants to look at, oh, I wonder what that's going to be like, and they're curious. There's some students that need the extra preview before.
Excellent. I'm going to stop share and then we'll hang out for a few more moments to see if anyone else has any questions and ensure that you're able to find these resources online.
There are no more questions. Thank you. We look forward to hearing from everyone. I can't wait to read what you write in your input forms about your wonderful children.
The link to the PDF is available under parent resources on the website, and that's going to be under the teaching and learning section. I believe the link is called ALP Grade 2 Parent Meeting Slides. It's right under the link to the Zoom meeting.
Somebody has a question about fourth grade. The fourth to fifth grade placement process is identical to this. You'll see the same slides again.
It just
We
happens
don't
later in
change
the
that
year.
placement process. We just change the level of the test. If you have a question about a specific test that was already given, please email us and we will set up a time and talk to you personally. Oh, try the advanced learning one. May have gotten lost. Sometimes it does. It could have been a typo in our email address name. Thank you.